just imagine the kind of quality that you will be getting in terms of the cost to build those properties. And because a lease is at least 20 years. Now, are you sure that kind of cost will last you 20 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, choosing a developer, definitely one of the important things you should do. And as Marcos said, yeah, track record is very important. So you want to see previous completed projects.
Our goal is to build a lasting relationship with our buyers, because we will always be there for them to manage their property. Like, we as an agency are not interested to sell them something that's not going to work out in the end, because if they appoint us to be their management company, we will have to deal with the consequences of delivering the targeted ROI.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Bnbprofits podcast, where we dive into the world of real estate investment. We discuss about the tips, tricks, and strategies to help you succeed. I'm your host Maria, and today we're going to focusing on an exciting market and also complex, and it is of course Bali. And today with us we have the founders of Bnbprofits. We have Alex and Mark. Welcome.
Hello, Maria. Hello again.
Yes, and we also have Sadhu as the head of sales.
Hi.
Well, as you can see, real estate in Bali is very exciting, but it doesn't come without the pitfalls. And today we're about to discuss on the most common mistakes that investors make and how you can avoid them to ensure your success. All right, so Mark, Alex, and Sadhu, as we all know, I think one of the most common mistakes that investors make is choosing the wrong developer. Either it is a bad one or the ones with with an unknown reputations. Maybe you could share us a little bit of your experiences, how that can affect the success of one's investment.
Well, yeah, choosing the developer when it's so many of them, or another way will be choosing no developer and just building it yourself without the right capacity and knowledge for it. So yeah, I think when it comes to picking a developer, it's the number one thing you do is you look at the previous track record.
Yeah.
See.
What have they accomplished? Who are the founders? What is their background? Which projects have they delivered that you can actually go to and see, ideally in Bali, because a lot of developers, they have thousands of square meters that they claim that they built overseas somewhere, but executing construction and legal side of things of a development project in Bali, in Indonesia, and abroad is completely different thing.
I actually used to work for one of those developer. But yeah, it's true. The reputation in terms of the development itself plays a huge part in, especially for first-time buyers and wanting for return on investment, right? Having those developers that does have the reputation when it's live, meaning that the property is up on the market for a daily rental, it has a sense of trustworthiness, especially when you are about to go into the property management side. Depends. You can go it by yourself. I wouldn't recommend it, but it helps in terms of giving a little bit more assurance to your guest.
Okay.
Right? What do you think, Alex?
Well, yeah, choosing a developer, definitely one of the important things you should do. And as Marcos said, yeah, track record is very important. So you want to see previous completed projects. You want to see their performance on short-term rental market. You want to verify the ability of developer to actually finish the project within the budget and on time, which is a rare case. Most of the developers are behind on their initial handover timeline.
I see.
Yeah, definitely factor in at least 2 extra months. Ideally, in your mind, you should be prepared to wait 4 to 6 months longer.
Okay. And
I'm not saying that it's always the case, but it's a frequent case, 2 to 6 months longer than expected.
Okay.
And so don't just look at renderings, the website of the developer, the pitch that they made. Look also at the legal side of things that they're offering. Of course, you're gonna do the purchasing through or leasing it through the notary, but also there may be a set of documents like investment agreement, construction agreements. Don't compromise on this and spend time actually going through the documents and making sure that you are well protected.
Okay.
In terms of late fees, in terms of unfinished construction, and so on. Also, definitely pay attention to how the payments are reaching the developer. Will it be possible to track every single payment that you make? Like, I know some of the developers are accepting payments in crypto, which is, from the legal standpoint, is not accurate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, another thing I would add is that we have a list of over 200 developers that we work with. I would divide them into two large categories. The big developers with previous experience with the funding available to complete the project anyway, with their own funding, and newcomers to the market with only a land secured and maybe a partial budget to start the construction, but they are mostly relying on off-plan sales. And in this case, basically the project success depends largely on their sales, which is...
Some of them don't even have the land paid up front completely.
Yeah.
So what they do is they put down a deposit for the land, let's say 30%, to the Indonesian landowner. So legally, they already can claim that this land is already in their company name, but the payments haven't been fulfilled yet. So let's say they already started the building, started the construction, but their next payment for the land is due in 6 months, and they're expecting to sell a number of units off plan to fund this, to complete the land purchase. And you understand how risky it is, because if, let's say, they need to fill in a quota of 10 units sold, for example, to complete the structuring of the project and the land payment. But, in 6 months, they've been only able to sell 5 because, their pitch is not as good. Maybe their location is not as good. Then all the buyers who got the project, who got the units,
stuck with
in the beginning, they stuck because the developer, maybe they'll have some kind of grace period, but worst case scenario, this land will come back to Indonesian landlord, and all the obligations that the developer has to the buyers, you will have to go to court with this. So this is very risky. Always request proof of the land being paid in full when you are putting your down payment for the off-plan project. And if you have a good, reputable notary, they would do it for you, and they will let you know, of course, that this land hasn't been paid. So your notary should definitely give you a heads up on this.
Yes. And that's one of the most important reasons as well, that some buyers do not understand that notary falls on your choice, meaning that you're the one who pays the notary. And some developer even request, almost a little bit mandating that the buyer must use their notary because that's where they put down the deposit in. It's a bit riskier once a buyer knows that the developer requests them to use their notary. That should be a little bit of a red flag.
Okay.
Use your own notary, find someone good, because the fee is you're the one who's buying it anyway.
Yeah, another thing is that you want to make sure, you want to check the financial commitment of the developer. So basically the project should be ongoing with past the groundbreaking, and you want to see that the developer commitment. So basically some developers just selling a pretty renders, which costs not a lot of money to produce, and everything is pretty on the renders. But the idea is to actually check the construction site to see what's going on, what's the stage, what's the capacity of of this developer, especially with the new projects.
Okay.
It is, of course, very attractive to go in there on a very early stage before the groundbreaking because it's biggest discount, right? Price for the unit goes up as it getting closer to the completion, but also the risks are also high. So I would only recommend going with the very early stage developments if your developer or real estate agency that you're working with can prove the credibility of this developer.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point because normally investors aren't that much aware and they got interested in starting in the early bird, taking the high discount, lower price. But what you just said, I think is a really good point and not everyone is aware of that.
Investors are falling in love with the idea of owning, a 2-bedroom villa in Bali close to the beach for 160K, and then kind of, it's if they have a nice feeling about the people behind the development, they kind of skip the proper due diligence. So don't get charmed and focus on the...
One more thing to look at is maybe a marketing activity of the developers. So some developers are kind of overspending on marketing, like incentivizing the agencies with higher commissions and paying for the ads and integrations and trying to be all over the place. You want to understand that part of this marketing budget is fractured in the price of your unit in the end. So
I think that's something you need to be careful.
Yeah, basically for us as an agency, we are working on the buyer side. We are not prioritizing any developer, but if you go directly to the developer, each one of them will try to convince you that their project is the best, their quality is the best, their ROI will be the highest, and so on. For us, we are kind of working on the client side and trying to help them find out the right property within their budget to fulfill their goals and to get.
Our goal is to build a lasting relationship with our buyers because we will always be there for them to manage their property. So like we as an agency are not interested to sell them something that's not going to work out in the end because if they appoint us to be their management company, we will have to deal with the consequences of delivering the targeted ROI.
So yeah, basically before committing with the LOI, you want to have a second opinion from an independent agency and actually get an estimate and compare the projects you like. And maybe something that is under the radar because they are not spending too much on marketing, you may be missing. And we basically have a portfolio of over 1,000 units, basically the whole market.
It's a very good habit, even if you're buying as an investor directly from the developer or through another agency here in Bali, to go to a management company like ours and get a second opinion. Like, okay, the developer promises me that this unit gonna cost this much, gonna make this much a month, gonna be this occupancy, this average daily rate. Can you guys confirm it, or it's gonna be a different number? And if the property management agency confirms it, then probably the developer is accurate and honest with you. And we actually are not charging anything, so we can do a free valuation of your future villa.
All right. So let's say an investor that comes to you and they ask about your opinion, especially about developers, it is free of charge.
Yeah, we get this all the time. Like, I'm buying this villa from this developer. What do you guys think? How much it's going to make if you're going to manage my property? And then we do actually very detailed ROI financial model. So
yeah, basically based on the average sale, which is between 200,000 and 300,000, and the average ROI, which could be 7 to 10 years. That's a pretty big decision and a big commitment. So you want to have your numbers compared from different sources before proceeding.
All right.
And last thing, maybe, don't forget that there are some things that are called too cheap, There's a lot of really cheap developments now, and a lot of the time it's easy to fall in love to cheap prices. But you have to factor in that price, that asking price, is also with their profit. So just imagine the kind of quality that you will be getting in terms of the cost to build those properties. And because a lease is at least 20 years. Now, are you sure that kind of cost will last you 20 years?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's important to take note as well.
Yeah. So there is a price of building per square meter for a decent construction, which is about $800 per square meter, right? Before furnishing. Of course, you can build something for $500 per square meter, but then what kind of a build quality you're going to get? Because all this will be reflected in your maintenance costs in future when you're going to have wall cracks, when you have mold because the waterproofing wasn't done properly. You're going to have all kinds of MEP problems and so on and so forth. So don't fall for something that is ridiculously cheap.
Yes.
So yeah, basically the balance is important here. You don't want to go for the cheapest option. You probably don't want to go for the most expensive option. The idea is to find a good value for money, like the best offer on the market at the moment. And some developers in the beginning of the construction process, they have some pretty interesting early bird offers. So this is something that you can get.
An offer needs to make sense.
Yeah. So one of the most important things that investors sometimes overlook is actually the interior design and furnitures. Because I think if we're talking about the rental business nowadays, everything is on the media. You see how it is look. People are attracted to beautiful interiors, basically that. So what do you think about this one?
Oh, I love this one. I have a story. We had a client, Indonesian guy from Jakarta. So he had a nice villa in Balangan that we managed for him, that he purchased freehold, already furnished and ready to go. He calls me one day and say, Mark, I just got a president level villa in Jimbaran. You want to come see it? I want you guys to manage it.
President level.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a 5-bedroom or on 12 ARA. This was back in 2019, I think, before COVID. So very exciting. I'm coming. Let's see your new property. So I arrived there. That's a huge building, white, kind of like a little bit colonial style with the columns and everything. I'm getting very excited, from the outside look of it. When I walk in, I see a very weird furnishing, like something that was purchased aftermarket, and this artificial rattan furnishing inside, weird looking wooden furniture with like glossy look. So kind of like a
mismatch of the exterior.
Mismatch. And turns out what happened that the guy got a loan from the bank to buy this villa. And then he didn't have money to furnish it properly.
Okay.
So he just got the cheapest furniture he could get, and just the basic one. So like a bed. So the bedroom would have only like a bed and a bedside tables, and that's it. No decor, nothing. And in his opinion, he just made a great investment that is ready for rentals. That is in a good location in Jimbaran, close to the beach. This is like 5 bedrooms. So he spent a lot of money on the down payment, I imagine. But he was very surprised to find out that we cannot manage it as it is, because without the right furnishing, without enough furnishing, enough decor, it's just not going to compete well, because it's not going to look good. And this is just one of the stories. We get this a lot when owners, they try to compromise on this last step of getting property to be picturesque, to be very appealing to the guests. And the great property in great location with great potential cannot perform as well as it should because of lack of interior design.
Yeah, I think they sometimes forgot that when people are renting vacation houses, it's more than just a place to stay, but they're looking for the experience, to feel comfortable, especially on the inside.
And you have to know that the competition for vacation rentals, for daily rentals, is very high. And there are boutique hotels in Canggu and Lovato.
Yes.
There are designer villas that are actually done by people with a design background, with some kind of a well-known name in the world of design. We have people from Zara building villas and boutique hotels in Bali. So the competition is high, and you may do everything right from picking the right developer, getting the right property in the right location with the right features, size and everything, getting the right management company to take care of your rentals. But then you stumble on the last step of furnishing because you didn't factor in the budget to make it Airbnb ready. And then your property gonna perform with, like 70% of your actual potential.
I see. But when we talk about interior design, what do you think about the trends, especially in the past year, past year, and what's coming in the future in interior design?
Well, we kind of see that trends are changing every 5 years or so. 2018, 2019, it was a loft style, so polished concrete, walls, minimalism, glass, steel, and wood. Then it was boho, I think.
With the curves.
Boho, then it was like a curved Mediterranean. Then it was Tulum.
A little bit of wabi-sabi.
So like major shift, I think, once every 5 years, but there's also like a small trends, like mini trends that arise that suddenly everyone is building like Tulum style. Then now I guess it's like a Japan.
Yeah,
like last few years.
For me, I would prefer the timeless one. The minimalist never stops because it's simple in a way. It's still luxurious. You still want to stay there. A good example would be those villas that are, can we name names? Well, there's this developments that does really well. It's a townhouse, very simple, boxy-like design, but the interior is just complete minimalist, but it still feels spacious at the same time. And they don't promote as much of the exterior because there's basically almost none. But the interior, people keep staying there because you just fell in love with it.
Yeah, I think and with minimalistic, I think you also need to play with lightings, with materials. I think that's the key that makes a space looks and feels luxurious.
Great thing about minimalism that you can convert it to anything.
Yes.
You can add little, spice it up and make it more Mediterranean, then change it to a little bit Japan style. So minimalism gives you a good basis that you can later adjust based on those trends.
Yeah, a few things to point out. So normally you have a fully furnished unit coming, normally you have a unit from the developer coming fully furnished. Some properties from the secondary market kind of need to review the current furnishing and interior design as things get old pretty quick. And normally, let's say if it's an unfurnished property, you want to spend at least 7 to 10% of the property cost to properly furnish it. And few important things here is the durability, because with short-term rentals, normally we have 5 to 7 check-ins a month, so people are in and out all the time. So you want to make sure it's durable and easily replaceable and available on the market. And another thing is that deciding on the interior design and furnishing, you want to think about the end user. The end user as the guest coming over to stay for a few nights. They will decide based on the pictures and Airbnb and Booking on other platforms. So making the unit Instagrammable, that's a huge, that's a must have thing. And talking about styles and different design trends, right? Normally, based on our experience, seeing hundreds of properties, we see that modern always sells better, because modern design kind of gives you a fresh feeling, so you kind of subconsciously know that the property is new if the design is modern. So you want to have a mix of a modern and timeless, something that will still be in demand several years down the road. So something modern and something timeless, because let's say a rustic design or going too much on a
decoration.
How do you say this?
Industrial?
Bohemian?
Too much of a like, how do you say, extraordinary, like out of the
trying
so
to
things like
exaggerate.
Exaggerating the design to
You want to stand out, but don't just make it cringy stand out. Like don't go for entire pink wheel or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
You have to make it appealing to the large audience still. Don't go for too much of a niche.
You wanna aim for either couples
Yes.
or on a vacation, a honeymoon, or families, extended families. So everything should be comfortable, visually attractive.
I guess like child proof, like child safety is important thing. So no like sharp angles, sharp edges in the pool, no hazardous places on the staircase where kids can get hurt. This is important because families will always look at this. Oh, we cannot stay here because
Too dangerous.
It's too dangerous to let the kid run around because he can fall off.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, and makes sense to mention things that sometimes the part of the interior design, furnishing and decoration gets like too old, and you want to have the screen to be flat, right? And things like this. So
What do you mean?
you don't want any like older, old style devices, something that is worn out and like from the previous era.
Yeah.
So you want to have modern amenities, clean, nice, minimalistic place, appealing to both families and couples.
So for our investors, we kind of like when we do long-term model, people who don't plan to exit in 3 or 5 years, who plan to keep the property for the entire lease, we usually factor in like a major renovation and uplift, like a facelift for the villa every 6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
That they need to do like a change of appliances and redecoration.
So yeah, basically thinking about the interior design, you wanna kind of envision this design and make sure it's still gonna be in demand 8-10 years in the future.
By the way, we have an interior design department within our vacation rentals part. So like if you have a property that is like semi-furnished or fully furnished but still lacking design, or you want to update it, we can do it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for having an interior design in your company. As any other business, I think the main important factor is location. As we always say, location, 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 right? So when it comes to rental properties, how does a good or a bad location can affect the success factor of your business?
Can affect a lot.
Well, yeah, location is everything, especially in our niche, specifically for vacation rentals. Again, you need to kind of reverse engineer it from the end user perspective. Basically, the way you choose a property when you're going somewhere, when you're going on holiday somewhere you're maybe never been before, you want to be close to the beach, you want to be close to the infrastructure, close to cafes, supermarkets, and other natural attractions, not too far away from the airport, things like this. So basically, the closer to the beach and the infrastructure is better. It's going to be more expensive, but more accessible, and these properties are always in demand.
Okay.
Year round.
Really depending on your goals. Like if you're aiming for long term, like if you're purchasing a property that is going to go on a long term rental market yearly or maybe monthly, then it is okay if you go further from the beach, within 15-20 minutes from the beach. If you only want to do all year, like an Airbnb working horse, you want to be as close to the beach as possible. You want to be surrounded by cafes and shops and so on in a walking distance, ideally. I understand that price point may be high, but then again, you need to consider what your goals are and how you're going to achieve it. Like perhaps if your property is 20 minutes away from Canggu, and I know your developer promises you that it's gonna have 85 100% occupancy throughout the year with daily rentals from Airbnb, Booking.com, and other platforms. Most likely, this is not the case. And also, okay, we talked about the beach, but there's also like jungle vacations, right? Yes. So if you more preferring something, more traditional, culture-like with more of like Bali feeling, then Ubud is also great. But then in Ubud, you also need to kind of ideally, for a property in Ubud, you should have a view, or you should have a bigger land plot.
Does access or like easy access has something to do with that as well?
A lot, but to your case where jungle areas as well is working well. So in my point of view is that the closer to the beach your property is, the less design plays a part. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of properties that are way in the jungle, nowhere near any cafe or restaurant, any civilization. No, but the design is amazing. Yeah, people still go there. Like the one that is in,
like the bamboo.
Yes, the bamboos. 80% occupancy is very easy for them because the design matters more there.
Yeah, think of it as points. So like how many points a property can get. It has unique, exceptional, remarkable design, then plus point, but doesn't have location, so it's minus point. So in the end, you want to kind of, look at it from multiple perspectives.
Yeah, for location, you want to see what audience you want to target. If it's expats, digital nomads coming over to spend the winter or to stay for a few years. So if the property is intended to be for monthly and yearly rentals, then location-wise, things to consider are schools, supermarkets,
gyms,
things like this. Yeah, so something that will be in demand for long-term guests. Probably you want to have a quiet area. You want to have some infrastructure nearby, but when you're staying long-term, probably the beach is not the thing that that is too important for you. It's not where you're going every day.
Yeah.
Versus with short-term rentals, that's probably will be your main attraction.
That's true. Yeah. So it depends on your market target market.
For us, because we are mostly focusing on short-term vacation rentals, there is an invisible line somewhere around 3 kilometers from the beach. After this line, we recommend the owners to go for either a mix of daily and monthly or more like a long-term. So basically, it depends on the area. We can predict it's going to be a better performing property for long-term rentals or short-term rentals.
Okay. What do you think about the areas in Bali? If let's say an investor comes to you and they ask you for opinions, which areas would you recommend for them?
Well, everything in Bukit Peninsula, everything around Canggu, Seminyak is still doing very well. Around central Ubud and Tigalang is also well. You can potentially make a successful vacation rental up in Amed, or Karangasem, Lavina, and so on, but it's much more complex to maintain high occupancy in there. So pretty much the central touristic destinations are good. Sanur by the beach is also very well, but I guess at Sanur you're kind of mostly going to focus on yearly rentals. They go very well in there. I think one thing that is important to mention, I guess this goes into vacation part, is don't go for rice field views.
Because one day those rice fields are going to turn into more buildings.
One day and pretty soon. This
one day soon.
This should be like a separate topic, like going for like a top most common investor mistakes, like going for a rice field view. So unless it's like a government protected area, like a temple, or a school maybe nearby, mostly temples, right, is something that they will never allow to build around.
Yes.
Then you are in the risk of having your beautiful serene rice paddy view turn into a construction for a number of years. Even if it's agricultural, even if it's green zone, because these zones are getting converted, there is a legal way to process the conversion of the land.
Yeah, basically in Canggu, if you want to have a rice field view, you have to own the rice field.
And yes,
That's the way to secure the rice field view.
And I think it goes also into the design part to make sure that, this rice fields might turn into something else. So don't put like too much openings in those sites. And I think that
Exactly.
is really
The safe way to do it, though, if there are two ways to secure a view safely. Either if your view is facing a river, because there are laws that you cannot build 3 meters, I think 3 meters close to the river bank, or if your villa is facing a rice field that has no access. If there is no way that someone can buy access, if it's like surrounded by the properties already and there's no way someone can provide a car access for the trucks to come in, so it's like maybe river on one end and the construction on the other three, then you're probably gonna be for longer.
Yeah, another thing, location-wise, as you mentioned, the access and location. So the best spot is probably the last villa in the end of the alley, facing the riverbank with a little bit of jungle. Yeah, that's probably the best spot, with ideally all the neighbors already built up.
So you're the last one who has the construction noise.
And another thing, location-wise, so generally in Bali there are 4 areas with their own upsides, downsides, with their own advocates. Ubud if you're looking for more like a spiritual experience, and cultural, spiritual, and they're more quiet and more connected to nature. Canggu and Seminyak is more like for
Dining,
shopping and partying, right? That's the main purpose. A little bit of digital nomadic, maybe daytime, then Bukit
for surfers,
more like for surfers and beach lovers,
stunning beaches,
and Sanur, I would say more families. And
families, there's a nice beach walk. It's the only place
Raya
actually where,
and a new shopping center is opening soon as well.
I think it's open 7th of July.
Yes.
Where is it?
It's in Sanur.
So the biggest one in Bali.
Yeah, it's near Pantai Sindu.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'll check it out.
I think things are going to
yes,
shake up a little bit around Sanur.
Yeah, you're a big believer in Sunner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of my friends who were coming visiting, they stayed in Canggu a few days, then they went to Wat, stayed a few days, and then I told them, don't stay in Sanur, it's like boring. And they're like with little kids. And they went there just to see it. And ended up staying there for the entire 2 months of their vacation, because like, Mark, this is perfect for us. Like, you can swim in the sea, you can walk with kids along this coastline with restaurants. It's just very quiet and nice, and we can go to Ubud. So some people love it.
Yeah. All right.
yeah. Based on our guest preferences, normally you have, let's say, a 2-3 weeks vacation, and you want to stay a little bit in Bukit, a little bit in Canggu, a little bit in Ubud at least. So this 3 locations will kind of cover complete Bali, the whole Bali experience, right?
Yeah.
And
and if you're an investor and you're planning on obtaining multiple properties, it might be a good idea to get one in Uluwatu, one in Ubud, and one in Canggu, and kind of we would offer like a package stay with the included transfer between the properties. So you usually make like a branded chain of 3 villas, each with slightly different concept, or like the same concept but slightly different design. And so it as a package, as like a vacation rental business.
well, for the investors who only care about the bottom line, we would recommend to go for Canggu, Peririnan area, and probably Gyungin area in Bukit Sese as well. And these are the hotspots. And what's good about Canggu, and specifically this Canggu Pererenan areas, is you're kind of in between the infrastructure to the left and the like actual Bali field with rice fields and views and nature to the right. So you can have this choice.
Okay. Other side of rental properties is also looking for a prospect in old villas or old homes that you can turn into something more modern, or you can make it into something vintage, and then you sold that idea. But I think turning an old property into a new one, it comes with its own its own task. You know, there's a lot of things that you need to put your attention into. So I think you can elaborate more about what is the important things that you need to know before you're buying or investing in old buildings or properties, let's say.
I have an experience. A friend of mine who is an architect had a client who purchased an old property 200 meters away from our location. So location is great. In Barawa, a little bit inside a gang, small house, no bigger than 120 square meter, very old. But she thought that it only requires at least 300 million to maximum 350 to renovate and everything to make it modern, right? Basically, it's a housing, nothing that you wouldn't see in Denpasar of a small house purchased for 700 mil, maybe 800, but it's old. So her expectation was at 350 plus the amount that she purchased it for, and then another 100 for interior, and then good to go. And she thought that it would take her at least maximum 6 months to do it. It wasn't so. It ends up 700 million for the total renovation, meaning that she needs to tear down almost all of the walls because
just keep the structure.
Even some of the structure needs to go down a little bit because the construction quality was so bad at the beginning of the old villas when it was constructed. Now it's already 25 years when she purchased it. So quality of the old villa needs to be surveyed first, and it takes a professional surveyor to do it unless you already have the experience, you know. And I think that is the first step in when looking into the old and flipping them out.
To check the quality of the building itself.
Like Sadhu said, so the building quality now is still sometimes concerning, but 15-20 years ago it was even more so, even worse especially in terms of the waterproofing and isolation. But depending on what your goals are, right? So if you're buying an old property and you plan to run it as a vacation rental, that's one thing. Another thing, if you're planning to get an old property, make to redesign it and then sell it, like leaving the moral choices aside, this is probably can work well. Like you get an like an old Balinese house and redecorate it, rebuild it, make enclosed living room and maybe just adjust, make another bedroom and so on, and then flip it. That's like I said, one thing. But definitely, if you plan to own this property for a number of years, you need to do a proper building survey, especially in foundation, waterproofing, roofing quality, and so on. And also from the legal perspective, of course, you need to check. Like every time you buy something, you need to check if it hasn't been mortgaged, who is the actual owner, and so on. We have all the taxes for the years that this property existed been paid.
But would you actually recommend to your clients or investors in trying to flip those old villas or old houses into a rental property?
Well,
depends of how old.
Case by case.
Converting an old villa into a new Airbnb unit seems like a lucrative opportunity that comes with risks and risks and rewards. So you kind of to balance this. As guys mentioned, it's going to take longer than expected. It's going to cost more than initially anticipated, and the constraints coming with an existing building. So some things you cannot change. You can be limited with the existing layout, which may be not the best, and kind of out of demand. Some structural things. The problems can be so complex that it's probably going to be cheaper and easier to demolish and build a new one.
Basically, buying the land.
Yeah, sometimes you can basically get a land with the building as an additional bonus, but also demolishing something and build from the ground up, sometimes it's easier just to go for an off-plan project. So if you are architect and a designer yourself and you kind of love doing this and you want to be like involved in this project that can last for over a year, then yeah, maybe it's a good idea for this specific type of clients. And we have some clients successfully pulling off this kind of renovation, and there were several villas and like a boutique hotel complex that they're doing pretty well. But again, you need to have a background and this kind of architect and interior design, like the right taste, the right feel to actually turn the villa into something that will add up value.
Yeah, I totally agree with Alex here. If you feel passionate about it, if you have the necessary skill set, if you did your research, so you know, okay, the location is right, you did the survey of the building, you have the concept of how it should look like in your mind, and you're gonna enjoy doing it, then definitely go for it. Worst case scenario, you're still gonna have a nice experience.
Yeah,
because you're doing something that you like.
Well, yeah, proper survey is the thing to start with.
Is it something that you provide as well? The survey?
Problem is a survey. We have partners for this. The problem with this type of investment that there are not so many houses left.
Yeah,
like you can still get something in Dalung, but then you probably can rebuild the local house there to have your own villa and live there full time. But there's like, if you want something in a touristic area, I think most of the older villas and houses have been already sold and rebuilt, and so it's hard to find.
Yeah, as a tip for someone who is willing to take on this project, two things that will definitely increase the property value are enclosing the living room and adding additional bedrooms. So this will definitely increase the earnings potential.
Yeah, more heads and beds.
So yeah, more heads and beds. That's the right approach if you're looking for the higher return.
Okay.
but in the rare case that you can find something, well, not too old, but with a minor touch-up that you can make it a little bit more modern, why not? But very rare case.
Yeah, so it's a cherry picking.
Yes.
Something that is not really scalable. You can do a couple of houses a year, but not like...
Especially because most of these homes, they have a very short lease, and the original owners, Balinese families and Asian families that own it, they probably will not extend.
No.
So they would rather wait 10 years until the lease runs out and then decide what they're going to do with this rather than, extend it now. So, yeah, it's cherry picking, like Alex said.
Yeah. Okay. And now let's talk about the legal aspects. Like, what are the aspects that investors need to put their attentions into, especially in the legal aspect? Is it about the ownership? Is it about the law or anything else? Like, what are those?
We had an example of a case where one of the owner owns a villa, beautiful villa, quite big property, 7 acre land, which is 700 square meter. 3 property at that land. So she wants to resell it. She owns it as a leasehold. The extension, well, as everyone does this here, is that you need to extend it with a real landowner, right? As it turns out, the landowner, one person, was not just one decision maker. So he needs to, well, it's a collectivist society anyway. So they have to talk it out with the whole family, which is not a small amount of people. And they have to have a consensus in what to do with the extension. Are they moving forward with this? How much they're gonna ask for it? It takes a long time. It takes a long time for them to make up their mind, because as
The guy's saying yes, but then his wife screaming on the background on the phone, no way!
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main issue, is when you do find a land that you love, make sure who's the decision maker here. Is it just that one person? And great, go forward, because unless you get a leasehold for a longer period of time, 30 years, where you are fine with, okay, I'm not gonna extend it anyway, then okay, it's whoever, how many people there is, it's fine. But when you are already having a mind that I think I'm gonna extend it in the future and then resell it, find something a little bit easier, especially if you already have a friendship or rapport with the real landowner, then it would make it easier when you do want to extend.
Okay, so I think it's just better to stay out from the land that has too many decision makers.
Yeah,
It's a very frequent case, for example, when the land was owned by grandpa, the grandpa passed away, then it got inherited by 5 brothers.
Yeah.
And many cases that inheritance papers haven't been processed yet, because you need to pay tax when you process. So they're waiting for a buyer or someone to lease their land, pay down the deposit so they can process the inheritance papers. And then when you have, 5 people on your certificate, or like your land, let's say if it stretches across, 60 meters wide, and then you have 5 different certificates in it, any deals with extending is going to turn into a nightmare, because you'll need to get all the 5 people in the room to sign it, and they may be all in a good relationship now, but then something happens in the family and they don't talk to each other anymore, and they won't stand seeing each other, and there are frequent cases like this as well. So try to avoid having complications like this. Like, try to go for the single owner or a single title of the land. It's not always possible, especially if you're aiming for a bigger plots, but
So the advice here is to qualify not only the land plot and the location, but the actual landowner, and establish a good relationship.
this is going to be a relationship for a number of years. There are taxes to be paid, and if you need to make a tax number for the property, it needs to be in, like if you don't have a company, it needs to be in the original landlord's name. So you will be seeing each other time to time. So it's important to build proper relationship, like with everything.
Well, yeah, we kind of have to repeat this over and over, but the proper due diligence should be done prior to any decisions. And land zoning, important thing. Then you want to make sure that this land is not used as a collateral with the bank, or so it's actually free of any obligations. Then access point. It's important to understand who owns the access road to your land. Because sometimes you need to pay an extra fee to have this access available to you. Things like this. So extensive due diligence.
Rule of thumb, I guess, is just don't go for the shady stuff. Like if a developer or a land owner or a real estate agency is selling you the land, is saying, yes, it's in the gray zone, but it's in progress now and changing. You never know how those things will eventually, develop and end up. So just make sure that you are following the law in your acquisition on every step, to avoid, having these time bombs in future when you need to exit, when you need to sell your property.
leasing something in a green zone that can be potentially converted in a yellow residential zone sometime in the future. That may never happen.
It looks attractive because it's cheaper.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
a lot
but
cheaper.
then when you're buying something, kind of need to think about the exit and how you're gonna sell it, and will you have all the proper papers to extend the lease and to sell it eventually.
Is it a common problem that you're facing with your clients? I mean, with them having problem with the legal stuff of the land?
No. With us, especially when any new listings comes our way, we require documentation of who's actually the owner. If it's a leasehold, we require the leasehold agreement. If it's a freehold, we require the freehold documentation. And prior to that as well, prior to getting the document, we do our own due diligence in terms of the zoning. And we want to make sure that what we're selling is easy, meaning that once it does comes to a transactional phase, the notary would not have any problems in doing their work and making the final agreement.
Yeah, we would not list something that has problems because we will end up doing all the work and coming to the final stage on signing, and then during due diligence it turns out that there is a big legal problem.
Yeah.
And then we wasted our client's time, we wasted our agent's time, we lost reputation on it. So we choose not to list properties that we are able to discover that there are some problems. So we say, sorry, when you fix this, we will be happy to list you, but until then, no.
Right. So for us, we are focused on the long-term relationships with the buyers that will end up being owners, and when we're going to manage the property. So basically, in the beginning, we want to check everything, make sure everything is in order, and avoid any potential problems for us and for the client. So yeah, due diligence is important. That's the number one thing you want to do before any commitment, right?
Yeah, another one, I guess, do not incorporate a foreign-owned company, a PMA company, unless you actually need it to run your business or you actually plan to run business, because there is no such thing as, like a shelf company in Indonesia. Every company needs to have a paid-up capital. It needs to submit taxes. It needs to have actual employees like HR and so on and so forth. So the company has maintenance costs. It has to be an actual running company. So don't just, open a company because you want to have investor visas for 2 years and then you want to put this property on a balance through HGB, unless you're actually planning to set it up as the actual vacation rental under this company, with all the taxes and everything. So closing this company and maintaining it is going to be a headache in the future. So think twice if you really need it or not. So without this knowledge, it's kind of impossible to have an accurate ROI. You can do an approximation, but sometimes this approximation will cost you a few percent out of ROI, and you would go for a completely different property because of this few percent.
There's just too many aspects that you need to take care of.
Yeah. So as an investor who is willing to get a passive income, basically you have no options. Your only option is reputable, reliable, trusted management company.